All right, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural episode of ExPats. I'm your host, Lucas Cobry, joined
As always, for the first episode.
as always. You'll get
I'm
used to it, fans.
yeah, they haven't seen the scrapped episodes, the lost episodes, if you will. But I'm Josh Downey, and we're two guys that have no experience or credentials, but we still have the ego to think you want to hear us talk anyway. So welcome to ExPats. Happy to have you.
We're here to talk a little bit about New England football. Um, Been a disappointing 2024. I think we're not shocking anybody by saying that.
Yeah,
But
it's a real bummer. Bill's off the market, guys. I know that's kind of that was the big thing. Was Bill Belichick was single, which, for all of the Boston bachelors and bachelorettes out there was huge.
huge.
Got himself a 24-year-old girlfriend. That sucks for everyone. And then he got himself a job. So that sucks even more, dog. Like this has been a
He's
real tough year for us. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with the Patriots. I mean, are they doing all right? Are we winning? Have we won many games? I've been so focused
no,
on Bill Belichick's private life that I've kind of taken a step back from Patriots football. Uh,
it's crazy. We're like the ex-girlfriend. Not gonna lie, you're so right.
we
We
kind of
just like
are.
watching him pick himself up. Left him when
Except
he was
we
low.
dumped the ex-girlfriend and then felt like a certain level of like indignity and anger when she got with someone younger and more pretty than us. Moved down to the warmer weather, and we're just
Yeah,
upset and bitter. Like, I can't believe you do this to me, even though we did it to you first. The Bill narrative, the Bill, uh, just the saga with I think New England sports media has been a treat, and by a treat I mean a trick. If we're using Halloween terminology, like it's just been. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of talking about Bill, and we're gonna talk about Bill today, which just whatever. But I have immense amount of respect for him and what he did for our organization. But I am so tired of the podcast clips that keep surfacing, and just the silent shots and all that, the good stuff that him, Lombardi, Patricia, little cronies have been kind of firing off the bow at what is clearly like a still very much growing but dysfunctional Patriots kind of coaching and front office mechanism. And whether or not Robert Kraft's had a big hand in certain areas of our failings, who's to say? But Bill clearly will say. Bill will have his buddies say what he thinks the issues are. So
no, I mean you're totally right. I think I'm excited for him though. I'll be definitely tuning into some games next year. I'm excited to see how it is. I mean, I think I heard yesterday or 2 days ago that they hadn't been ranked since, or they hadn't had like a good ranking since Drake was the quarterback. So,
yeah, they
so
were
like it'll
10th.
be, yeah, which is
They were 10th
crazy for them.
when my alum UVA beat their asses. And then the committee was like, they lost to UVA. I don't think they're 10th. I think they might not
Yeah,
even be ranked at this point. And I think all of us that attended UVA agreed because we're an incredibly uh, poor football team. We suck.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Drake May.
Drake May. Drake,
Yeah,
I mean, watching that game, though, I remember watching the game because, I think at that point in time, we we kind of were seeing some cracks in Mac Jones's game. So looking at some of these younger guys that were going to be there in the 2024 draft was intriguing to me. And even though I found myself rooting against Drake May during that game, it was, you're kind of getting a taste of the Drake May this season in terms of absolutely zero security, zero like pocket structure. Like even in the ACC, his linemen at North Carolina were getting, their teeth kicked in. And sometimes I think it resulted in Drake, some of like the red flags on his tape. Uh, Maybe forcing some throws, a lot of the similarities you see with Josh Allen coming out of college. I think that comes from just a lack of, security, a lack of being able to get into a rhythm. We've come full circle a little bit there, although, we have the opportunity to actually, service Drake May heading into the offseason. But on the topic of Bill, I I'm not a fan. I know I just I have mixed feelings about it. I just feel like I don't want him to coach on, like, I don't necessarily want to have what we went through with Brady happen again.
sure.
But at the same time, I watched like every Bucks game I could get my hands on, and I wanted Brady and Gronk because we were, never really true playoff threats, throughout Brady's tenure with the
No,
Buccaneers, other than, that one fluky 10-7 season that, we got curb stomped in the first round of the playoffs. Uh, we really like that was something to look forward to, and I knowing how close Bill is to Shula's record, uh, it just almost seems like so anticlimactic that he's just going to take the step back. He belongs in the NFL, and I obviously there's a lot of reports coming out where they're like Bill was disgusted with the toxicity of the way the NFL works, in those back rooms with commissioners and owners and all the kind of whatever the Illuminati of uh, the modern day NFL. Uh, Clearly, he was disillusioned with a lot of things, and some of the narratives we're seeing going around is like, oh, he's a brave soul that's kind of paving his own way because you know he wants to feel appreciated and build an actual program. And the NFL has kind of become a little bit too divified. Like it's very much like about the corporate side of things, the money being brought in, and maybe kind of like what we saw from Saban at the college level he was done, which kind of further raises the point. Well, we're in the NIL era, we're in the transfer portal era of college football. Like, are all those kind of like altruistic, Bill cares about the purity of football? Does all that really freaking matter when we're paying like 19-year-olds like six figures to come to our school? I don't know if I buy that. And as pretty as North Carolina blue is, I'm an ACC guy myself, so I don't like seeing the greatest coach of all time go to a
Sure.
rival school. And I did want to see him break Shula's record. Like obviously, you know, I think heading into the year, we were like Mike McCarthy, Nick Sirianni. These are guys on 10 plus win teams, like based on their roster. Now, obviously, with Dallas, we've seen, a completely different like evolution throughout this season. But we're looking at these guys and saying, if Bill goes in there, he can get that record maybe in 1 year. And then it's, if he takes them on a deep playoff run, if he brings Dallas and or Philly to the Super Bowl, then he can have the sort of legacy boost that Brady did with Tampa, and it's kind of like an FU while also being like a closing the book on I think what has become a very toxic kind of point of contention within not just New England but just the broader scope of reductionist sports media where we have to be like it's either Tom or Bill, Tom or Bill. I wouldn't mind seeing both of those guys have success in the NFL outside of the Patriots organization because maybe that kind of is like a warning shot to Kraft a little bit. Like, all right, these two guys have left and found success, and what's the common denominator to a flailing team? It might be ownership. Now, I have
Uh,
so much love for Kraft, as I think a lot of people in New England do. But I do think, and again, he hasn't helped himself with a lot of his media commentary lately. Like, I'm not a fan of what the shit Bill's been pumping. Pardon my French. However, like I do I do want our ownership to feel a certain, like level of heat underneath their seats. Because if someone like an Elliott Wolf doesn't do his job heading into the season, as we've talked about before, like you need to start like firing bodies, bringing in bodies, and not like cold bodies off the street that no one wanted. Like, sorry to Alex Van Pelt, it's worked out for us, I think, decently enough. But we got like our fifth, sixth. Like, we're not talking about guys that for the greatest organization in the history of the NFL, barring maybe like the Steelers or Packers or whatever, semantic argument you want to have. Like, guys should be wanting to come and play for Robert Kraft because of the power he holds, because of the avid fan base, because you're going to have certain resources. You're playing in a Patriot Place is a marvel. Especially compared to some of the other rundown areas. I know that maybe for
sure.
tax and weather purposes, New England isn't like a
I was gonna say,
destination.
yeah,
But I mean, playing for that organization, playing for Kraft, there's a reason why free agents go to Green Bay, they go to Pittsburgh. It's a lot of it is heritage and it's
yeah.
winning culture. And I really hope that in the post Bill era, we don't lose that completely. Uh,
No, I
and
hope you're right.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. I think Bill is like I'm almost happy for him. Like if he could build a true blue blood program, and I think he's capable of doing it. Like I mean they're gonna have all the resources as far as NIL and all that stuff. Like I think he could be one of those great coaches. I mean like he is clearly, and I think if he goes in there he'll be able to elevate some of those 3-star players into 4-star players, and that's what college is really about. Like yeah, it's nice to have all those 5 stars and everything, but he's going to be able to turn mid-tier players into above average players. And that's what all those great Patriots, like we always talk about like that strong middle class. I mean, not us, this is the first episode, but like I feel like a lot of time in the media you hear about that strong middle class dominating for those early dynasties. And that's what I feel like college football is about. Like if he can go out and get some tackles, some some Cole Strange guards, some guys who can make plays up front, I think he'll have success. Because I don't think defensively, there's no way that like Dabo Sweeney and Cade Klubnik start giving this guy trouble. Like, I mean, he shut down OG Peyton Manning. Like, I mean, he's gonna be. I think he's gonna be. And if he can cement that legacy, there's no way that Shula is better than him already. Like, if he were to go down and make the playoff in year one, dude, that's got to count for something too. You know what I mean?
I mean, I agree. I think maybe it's more of like a 2 to 3 year plan in terms of actually making the playoff
Yeah,
because, like, yeah, he was able to shut down Peyton Manning at times, and he was able to do that with guys like Brewskis and Harrisons and Laws and like
yeah,
people that really kind of are at the very least Patriots Hall of Famers, let alone Pro Football
sure,
Hall of Famers. So it's and again, and I don't know how Bill's because Bill, I mean, we've had a lot of issues with him in the last 5 years when it comes to paying people in free like we spent like 3 years worth of free agency budget on that like 2021 class, and it wasn't about marquee pieces. Although I'd say, in hindsight, doing having Johnny Smith and Hunter Henry come over in one off season is like a nice coup, like to have like that's a I think that's a really like interesting set. We could have run some very cool like 12, but at the
sure,
same
yeah.
time, I get that again. We're talking about a Mac Jones offense. I don't
Whoa,
know if he's going to be able. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be able to like compete with any like obviously maybe like in the ACC they could be a top 3 or 4 program out the rip
heck yeah,
because I mean we have what FSU, uh, Virginia Tech, Clemson. Outside of like Clemson, none of those schools are good.
exactly,
Again, I'm not trying to forget about the NC States and all those maybe middling programs that'll have good seasons here and there. And I won't
sure.
mention my alma mater in this conversation, but it's it's in the NIL era. Now, again, UNC is a great brand. It's not a good college football brand yet, but it is a fantastic
Yeah,
brand.
it is a good brand
Uh,
though.
and I think in terms of quarterback play, that could be interesting if someone wants to come play for Bill, just because like even when UNC has, especially on the defensive side of the ball, failed to recruit adequately, like they're still getting, largely locally sourced, but they're getting like insane value at the quarterback position. The Drake Mays, the Sam Howells, they've just had successful like NFL caliber players at
Yeah,
the most important position in football, and that's kind of helped them stay around like 500 a lot of seasons, and every once in a while you have like the Drake May 22 season. Uh, so an ACC championship game. I think you're right that Bill again. It's about building that strong middle class. It's about depth. It's about turning those 3 stars into 4 stars. Symbolically, it's whether or not they can hold on to those guys, or if they're the guys that are patient enough to be like, well, I'm willing to ride out 4 years in this Bill Belichick system because by the time I'm a
heck no.
senior, I'm gonna have my my stuff together, and I'm gonna be really able to put on tape for the draft. Like Bill's gonna want to build a program that has like legacy and stability in
Yeah,
today's college football. There's a reason why Saban left.
yeah.
And it's
There's
for
no
that
such
reason, and
thing.
it's so hard, and there's no such thing as loyalty, and it's understandable because again, it is a business, and it's a business that's exploited the young athletes for as long as they have. But I
Hmm.
don't see how a Bill Belichick that struggled with kind of free agency, like whenever Bill made a splash, it was oftentimes people past their prime, but that had immense work ethic. Like I mean, Randy Moss, like you're not going to find like 7th year like all American
Studs.
style like
Yeah,
receivers that are like 26 years. I don't know. Like if Bill had his way, he'd probably have a team full of Brandon Weedens who got went to the
yeah.
military and then got drafted in his mid to late 20s or 30. I don't remember how old he was, but like I, Bill's going to have to change some philosophical things about how he runs a program because I mean he
No
ran the
doubt.
organization essentially in New England for as long as he did, and there was some success there. But again, like it's amazing how much success you can have when you hit on like drafting the greatest quarterback of all time, the greatest tight end of all time, uh,
Yeah,
and
that's
you have
fair.
consistently excellent specialty. I mean, going from Vinatieri to Steven Gostkowski is, I think, a really unheralded part of the dynasty as well. I mean, Gostkowski is what
Sure.
like the all-time scoring leader in New England or something
I
like
think so.
that. One
Yeah.
of like a criminally underrated kicker in his time was consistently battling with Justin Tucker, kind of for top honors there. So there's little things like that I think maybe in those micro details, Bill will be like very sharp. It's whether or not he can put aside the ego that, no, I'm coming here to teach kids. Like, they need to understand that and humble themselves. I think there's a lot of egos going around, and because kids are now, making millions in NIL, and they can make more millions if they transfer, if they put their name in the transfer portal consistently. So I don't know. We'll see where we go from there. I know, you're excited again. Maybe if you went to, a different non-ACC
Yeah.
school, I'd be happy. I have nothing against North Carolina. I mean, if you went to Duke, I really kill it. But I mean, we haven't even talked about, the reports this morning that say he had sent feeler, like, kind of like a, hey, what are you guys doing with
Yeah.
that coaching vacancy to the Jets? So that's a whole bag of worms in and of itself.
No, he was trying to break hearts with that one. I mean, you don't do that without trying to get under some skin. So
Who's
it'll
more
be
pathetic?
interesting.
Who's more pathetic? The Jets, if they accept Bill Belichick after resigning on a napkin and after, or whatever the legend is, after like
Yeah.
completely leaving them out high and dry, or is Bill Belichick more pathetic for going to a dysfunctional organization with an owner that likes to point fingers at everyone but himself, doesn't like pointing thumbs, and that Bill literally beat like what 15 consecutive, like an organization that he owned more than any other, and then to just kind of be like, well, you got a couple of all-pro caliber people on both sides of the ball, like, maybe I can get that Shula record. If that's, I feel like if you're taking the Jets job, that would be his motivation rather than, like, say, again, Sirianni, them being as good as they are this year has saved his job. I think he was on a hot seat heading into the season. Like, it would have been great if he
Hmm.
could have gone to Philly or whatever, but I don't know. The Jets thing is, that's messy.
That is a whole can of worms. You're so right with that. All right, you want to move on to a little bit of the what you wanted to talk about? Judge
Are you
some
talking
of our
about
players real quick.
the sports sillies? Yeah. Uh,
The sports sillies.
Look, maybe I'm just like a petty, neurotic person, but this morning, Saturday the 14th, I believe the Patriots media team released a video where they ask, a bunch of the players, uh, basically to recount like their Spotify stats and how many minutes they listen to and their top artist. And the sheer number of athletes that said Rod Wave, like literally it was like 80% of the people in this video said Rod Wave was their like number one artist on Spotify. And I'm thinking, I'm doing the math in my head, like what my minutes were, what my number one artist was as a percentage of like my total minutes. And I'm thinking about if I just replace that with Rod Wave, like imagine listening to 4,000 minutes of Rod Wave, this like just throughout the course of a
You
year.
know.
You're training, you're at the gym. I have nothing against Rod Wave. I think he's got, a nice singing voice, and I think he's been good on some songs, but it's like what, like emo, right? Like it's very like
Yeah.
sad boy music that's very repetitive. And
No, you're not wrong.
I'm big into hip hop. I'm not like a massive Rod Wave guy. I could not imagine listening to like say 4,000 minutes of Rod Wave a year. That's psychotic to me. I
I
tried to
know,
break down
but
the numbers as to how many songs you're listening to on a day of Rod Wave to hit that number, and I had to stop because I got real sad. I was like, "What have we come to?" Like, I miss, I wish
here's
some
the
of these
thing,
guys
though.
come out and they're like, I listen to Wu Tang all the time, or like just somewhere I'm like, yes, like I want you in the locker room, like ready to
Fair.
absolutely like break necks, and instead they're like got a single tear dripping down, like I used to be nothing. Like I don't know,
I know, but
like
that's
what.
so gonzo. Like you can't tell me Rod Wave's not a little
All right, Gonzo
bit.
gets a pass, but it's also like it was also pop. It was also like I don't
That's
even
so
remember how
pop
many
too,
people in the
though.
video. The funniest one was Jalen Polk being like, "Young Boy is my favorite artist," and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Not to talk about hair or
He needs to feel
hairlines,
like Gucci
but
Mane in 2006
no
on that freaking
cap.
jugs machine. Like if he's gonna be bumping Young Boy, I really hope that he's also practicing them best hands in the league. I don't
I
know.
get the ball and flip it and tumble and fumble it.
Yeah, dude, flip it and fumble it, dog. Like yeah, I mean I'd probably be Ramondre's. What someone did say Huncho was their number one artist, and I'm like, if it was Mondre, and he's like Migos were my number one, the amount of fumbling jokes that could come of that would be great. So.
Fair.
You know,
Now that
way to
would
plug
be
the bar
awesome.
there. Yeah, that's like my rant of the day that really, it serves no purpose to anyone. I just woke up being like, I want to
No,
see a
I did
team
that
that's like
too.
angry and hungry and fighting and that doesn't want to lose these last four games because that will say a lot about the leadership within the organization. And to hear them all say Rod Wave made me realize I think they all are individually very sad boys that don't like losing and they're very sad and
I
they're sad about the losing.
You're not wrong. I want to hear what Drake had to say.
Drake probably listens to like I don't know Chris Stapleton, I'd imagine. If I had to
Yeah.
put like a number one artist, although Drake's a dog, dude. Watch Drake come out and just be like, yeah, I listen to So. Like So's my number one artist on Spotify. I'd be like, hell yeah, it is
All right,
Drake.
my guy.
Hell yeah, it is Drake. And again, if you're playing like Gonzo, listen to whatever the hell you want. You could have Beethoven's Fifth Symphony Orchestra, like that could be on repeat. Which honestly, I think that probably does help with brain connectivity. Whatever, it's its own side tangent. But if you're performing, listen to as much Rod Wave, cry as much as you want, Gonzo. You have earned it. Like Caleb Williams earned his fingernail paintings in college, despite
Yeah.
all the haters in the media. Some of the other guys, I don't know if they've earned Rod Wave, and I don't even know if earning is the right word, but Jalen Polk sure hasn't earned Young Boy. Like that's like
Whoa.
I don't know. Like maybe it's fitting, and I'm not saying like Young Boy's great. I'm just saying like the anger, like the tenacity, like that,
No,
like the
that
kind of
was
stuff
funny.
you associate with Young Boy. I associate Jalen Polk with like 2010 era Katy Perry. Like I don't know, seems a little soft, but not trying to fire shots on the first episode at all of our players, but
No, I know. It sounds like
yeah, I
you
mean
guys
it's
got
more a
bad
joke than
music taste.
anything. Mm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's my thing, dude. They just had like low numbers. Am I wrong? Like, I was like, I mean, I had an insanely high count this year, but I was like, you
Yeah,
guys are just like, maybe you guys, like, one guy is just
maybe you guys
ripping
are
it.
like working out and being
Yeah.
NFL football players.
Lazy
Maybe you guys,
bastards. Listen to
are
some more
doing your
music.
jobs. It's super weird, dog. My
I
numbers were down
apologize.
this year, and they were pretty much higher than everyone on the team, not named Gonzo, I think. So,
I know. I think Dietrich Wise had one too towards the end. That was
yeah, yeah.
kind of big, but
I respected. Again, I'm probably a hip hop guy more than anything, but I hop around a lot, and I think it was Brendan Schooler mentioned like this kind of like southern rock band called the Red
yeah,
Clay Strays. I'm a big fan of that band, so I was like, Schooler, you're a dog, and I was also like, but at the same time, how predictable is it that we just had 15 Rod Waves in a row, and then the second Brendan Schooler comes up, it's like
yeah.
an Alabama revivalist band or whatever. Like I don't know, it's just I found that to be amusing for sure.
No, it was funny. There's no doubt about that. Um, yeah, no, that was a good way to wake up. I love some judging, so
Yeah, dude, I'm a judger at heart. That's why I'm lonely and
that's
sad.
why we're doing this.
So I can talk to
uh,
someone, so I can feel human connection.
yeah, guys, please comment.
Yeah, my roommate isn't here. I'm alone in the apartment for 3 weeks. He's gonna find me with a half torn pair of boxers sitting alone on the couch, covered in Cheeto dust, probably crying a Rod Wave, and
Watching Drake Man highlights.
then I'll be even more alone. Yeah, probably, dude. Yeah, watching Brady highlights. Honestly, that far alone,
Yeah,
that'd just
you're
be like
right.
me watching Brady highlights. Getting my
No,
feels.
I had that job interview the other day, and like the
Hmm.
night before, I was like, me, I get a little bit anxious. So the night before, I watched the Do Your Job.
Oh,
I was
dude.
just fired up.
Yeah. Dude, one of those days, like before an interview or something, I'm gonna put on like that. I've been saving it on YouTube, like the Banner 18 Celtics doc that they've
Oh
kind of
yeah,
like they made like an hour and 45-minute movie of it, and I've been like, I'm saving you for a special occasion, my friend.
no, that's
Just keeping you nice and warm on the back burner.
you got to get ready for that one.
I do.
That's a good one. I
So
haven't seen it.
like that's maybe the Celtics are down like 2-1 in like the Eastern Conference Finals, and I'm like, all right, let's
It's
remind ourselves
time.
why we're here. Yeah,
It's
throw
time.
on Banner 18.
Have you seen the comeback yet? The Red
No, dude,
Sox
I need
one?
to.
You need
The
to.
thing
It's
is,
good.
before it released, like a week before it released, I got in that like 2004, like I had an itch to scratch. So I watched like uh the ESPN 30 for 30 on it, like the 4 nights in
Sure.
October. Uh and that kind of scratched that itch for me. So once I have enough time between then and now, then I'm gonna throw that. Maybe I'll watch it with my family when I get home for Christmas.
Hey now, that
So
sounds like a holiday film to
I feel
me.
like that's something to me and the pops would like to watch together for sure.
Heck yeah, man. That would be awesome. I asked my
Yeah.
dad to watch it. He was like,
He
"What?"
wasn't a fan.
My dad hates the Sox, but like specifically John Henry.
Oh yeah, well I mean I think everyone in Boston probably hates
I
John
know.
Henry. Why does
I
he hate
know.
John Henry?
He's just, I mean, thinks he's just kind of a prick, which I'm sure like he actually is. Like,
I'm
I
sure. I
don't know.
mean every billionaire is.
Fair, fair.
Hashtag
Um,
no Luigi, but
no Luigi. All right. What do we? You want to get into the game a little bit? We got we're taking a trip to the desert this
Yeah,
weekend.
why don't we take a trip to the desert and on the way there take a trip down memory lane because, as we talked about
Yeah.
off air, talk about transition, baby, I'm smooth. But yeah, as we talked about off air, uh, this is kind of an unusual circumstance. Not like there's much carryover outside of like some pieces like Kyler, but we played. Given the way the NFL schedule worked for as long as it did, you generally play every 4 years. You go through like those NFC divisions, and with the addition of this extra game, we might have more routine and regular matchups, I think, than we would have traditionally. So we saw
Hmm.
this Cardinals team almost 2 years ago. What last
Almost
Thursday?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost exactly 2 years ago. And very different circumstance there. It was a 27-13 win.
For the
They had
fellas.
for the fellas. They had Vance Joseph at DC. They had Cliff as head coach. Like this was a
Yeah.
different team that also lost Kyler notably early in the game
I think it
with
was
a
literally the
non-contact
first
injury.
play. Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been honestly their first play from scrimmage. I think because I
Yeah.
remember being like, oh, we might actually win.
We're gonna win.
Which
Yeah.
which I like. I didn't I've all love to Kyler. I don't ever want to see a guy get hurt, but I remember just that was our mentality that season. And
Yeah.
that season didn't even hold a candle to the disaster that was 2023.
Yeah.
Just
Not even a little
easily
bit.
one of the least enjoyable seasons to watch playing football. But some facts to note: we had Mac going 24 for 35 with 235 yards I don't know for 235 yards and a pick. Pierre Strong 5 for 70, averaging 14 a carry. You got a tug. Kevin Harris 8 for 26 and a tug, and Mondre only had 3 carries. So interesting. These are guys that Kevin Harris was cut this year, so very interesting
And
to see those splits. Look, I mean, some things don't change. The guy who had the most yards that game, Hunter Henry, went 3 for 70, only three friggin' balls. Bourne and Aguilar both had 5 catches each, and Taekwon had 4. So it's just really interesting for me to look at this team, and I want to have a conversation with you about it defensively. But another fun thing I noted in this game, which Alex Van Pelt clearly didn't note a few weeks ago, Marcus Jones had a catch for 12 yards. So
yeah.
yeah, and he didn't even, did he not do any, tape on when we played the Cardinals last time? Because if he did, going into the season, he might have seen like, hey, Marcus Jones can actually get some offensive reps. But that's aside from the point. On defense, we do have some carryover, obviously, a lot. Kyle Duggar, Marcus Jones. We had some Miles Bryant back in the day, Jelani Tavai,
Oh
Josh
man.
Uche, no longer with us. Udon, thinking about noodles. We had both Jack, RIP, and Jonathan, RIP to his legs, Jones,
I know.
Lawrence Guy, Jabril Peppers, Adrian Phillips, Raekwon McMillan, Dietrich Wise, Devon Gottschall. So we're seeing like a lot of similar foundational pieces. In addition to that, we have like an all-pro corner now, you would think. So
And
I
the
don't know. It doesn't
quarterback
seem
is getting
structurally there's
jacked.
much difference. I will say you have guys like McCourty back there. Again, Adrian Phillips. Like we
Yes.
had certain veteran experience in practice as like a free safety position that I don't think we have now, and I think that's hurt us.
No.
But I did want to kind of probe a conversation with you about like are are we like where are we seeing most of our issues? Because obviously we've known that there's like been a talent issue. Like we'll keep it to the defensive side of the ball because the offensive side kind of writes itself in this regard.
Sure.
But there's been clearly deficiencies uh, in certain areas. But this was a team that in 2022 had 30 turnovers. That was top 3 in the league.
I know.
30 turnovers. That's one of only 3 teams to go plus 30. Now this year, I don't know if we're even going to see a team go plus 30 for whatever reason and trends that has to do with the way offenses are schemed up now. I'm not entirely sure, but 30 turnovers. Like we were the 11th ranked defense that season in scoring. The Cardinals were 31st in scoring as well. So we're looking at a complete flip to this year, which is the Cardinals are currently 13th in defense and the Patriots are 20th. Now, again, that's in scoring, and I'm sure there are other defensive metrics where the Patriots are worse than 20th. But
I
we
was
only
gonna
have
say a
we
lot of
only
them.
have 11 turnovers right now, and I think we knew towards the end of the Belichick era that like in terms of sustainability, we couldn't maintain like from 2019 to 2022. Let's say like I think the amount of turnovers we were getting and how that kept us in games. But I mean, it's just jarring that we're 4 games left in the season. We're not even halfway to our turnover count,
I know.
that we had this time 2 years ago playing the exact same team, a team, that's undergone institutional changes itself. They now have Gannon as head
Sure.
coach. Cliff's, took a year off to be in, Bermuda or wherever the hell he did, and, is now in
Yeah.
Washington. But just a couple more stats I'm going to feed you here that kind of tickle my fancy.
Go for it.
Patriots are -6 in turnover ratio with 1 defensive touchdown, which came last week with Gonzo. We were -11 last season, 2023, with 0 defensive TDs and 5 defensive TDs against. So that
Wow.
that I found interesting because there is something different about this year in terms of like I think watchability and entertainment watching the Patriots games. And I'm like, it might be the fact that we're losing the turnover battle, but do you know how demoralizing it is to have 0 defensive touchdowns and to have 5 scored against you over the length of a season? Like for that, plus minus to be -5 in terms of defensive touchdowns, that's horrid. 2023 or 2022 rather, we were +7 in the turnover margins with 7 defensive touchdowns and only 2 defensive touchdowns allowed. So we went from having 7 defensive TDs in 2022 to 0 last year. And then you see the fall off. You see it was, our worst season since, drafting Bledsoe. And you wonder why. And it's like, man, once that turnover well dries up and you can put it down to, player instincts, coaching, what have you. I mean, there's clearly a drop off there. The team defense is just obviously going to be much worse. And those stats are going to look a lot better than I think maybe they should have, especially as, the bend don't break Belichick defenses weren't always about just, stifling opposing offenses. Although, in 2019, that's kind of what you had to do to, make it to the Super Bowl or, the 2018 season, you know what I'm saying? So
No,
it's
yeah.
those turnover splits really fascinate me. And just as a fan, I think we all understand that we're not seeing as much production on the defensive side of the ball that way and creating turnovers. But I mean, just looking at the raw numbers like that and like we probably won't hit 15 turnovers this year, and we had 30 in 2022. So that's
I
just
would be
something
shocked.
that's gets the alarm bells ringing a little bit
Yeah.
for maybe DeMarcus Covington. Who knows? Again, you can't script turnovers, so I'm not trying to. Obviously, there's an element of flukiness to it, but there also is an element of like schematic intentionality where depending on how you're putting guys in the quarterback space, whether or not you're getting in the backfield, you're meeting backs head on, like that's how you first turnovers with aggressive football, but intellectual football that challenges, particularly the quarterback, and that's something we're going to have to do, especially given Kyler Murray's kind of instability when put under pressure. Like
Yeah.
his like QBR when facing a blitz is not good. So
Yeah.
we need to kind of utilize some of those strengths that we have, if we have them, to, win the turnover game this week. Because that's how we're going to win. Because I don't know if defensively we're going to be able to, like, stop them frequently, given that they have, real good Pro Bowl caliber players on offense. That,
Hmm.
may not be consistent. But we are looking at, a situation where we're going to need, to have, I
You got to
think,
win the turnover battle.
we have to win the turnover. We have to kind of be reminiscent of that 22 defense. And I know we don't
Yeah.
have Bill and what else, but still, it's like we're going to have to kind of turn back time a little bit here, especially because this team is, in a slightly better position than it was in 2022, talking
Yeah.
about
I
the
think.
Cardinals.
Oh, okay. I hear. I think a lot about the turnover battle as well, and like obviously Bill is Bill and great and did all these things to cover up holes on our defense for the longest time, but you also had like don't get me wrong, I love Gonzo. I think he's great at that man to man, but in man to man, you're trying to get sacks. Like you're not gonna get picks, you know what I mean? Whereas like 2, 3 years ago, you have J.C. Jackson playing just that freaking like let's go get the ball, and like you're playing all these terrible quarterbacks, and you've got guys who actually are like Gonzo's amazing, and I think he truly can erase a number one like he did several times this season. But you don't have that J.C. Jackson on the other side who it's like go get the ball, you know what I mean? And I think that's a huge part of it. You also don't have Judon, who's can beat double teams. Being able to have that guy who can just go get him, like literally just go make a play. Like we don't really like. I mean, the fact that you got to ask like Keon White right now to go do that like is a huge difference. Whereas like 2 years ago you have Judon and like Judon goes down, and then you have Uche who just steps up to a phenomenal level. And like that's when we were losing a lot and like keeping the games like it's we don't have the pieces, you know what I mean, to go out and go generate. Like I would love to see them. Like if Alex Austin, like we talked about, I think off the air, like if Alex Austin can be that guy who can just go get the ball, like that's going to be huge. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
that kind of leads into a question I was going to ask you is that, we talked yesterday about how, like, I was saying that I think in terms of development and players we need to be on the lookout for these last 4 games of the season. Obviously, Drake May is going to be paramount. He's the most important. But I do think in terms of knowing what we have, it's knowing what we have in terms of secondary depth. Alex Austin is probably like the most important player on the defensive side of the ball. Not the best, not the one with the most potential, but what we get out of him, what we see from a potential standpoint, like that's crucial because it can change the way we approach the draft. Like
Exactly.
maybe we were thinking about taking Will Johnson top 5, or we could be like, you know what, maybe we go Travis Hunter. Like it really it can dictate the way the front office works down to our coaching staff. Like that's an important pickup, and another reason why it is because we've struggled using man the last couple of weeks for sure. Like it hasn't been pretty. And that's largely because, outside of Gonzo, we don't have people that have the
Yeah.
legs to stay in man for longer than a couple seconds. And when we don't have a pass rush, like you said, that doesn't even have a Uche, let alone a Judon getting to the quarterback, it's very hard to stay in man and not get beaten.
Exactly.
But the bigger issue is that we're also horrendous in zone coverage. So it's like, in what way do you think maybe the resurgence of Alex Austin, by resurgence I mean just coming off of IR and having an impact in the team, in what way can that dictate our like man zone splits? Do you see us kind of tailoring our defense, and by us I mean DeMarcus Covington, given that we have this asset that comes in the last quarter of the season and might be able to dictate the way our secondary operates, and then by extension we might be able to send an extra guy from that second level to get to the quarterback because maybe we have more faith in an Alex Austin than a Marcus Jones to stay on a guy for longer than 5 seconds or 4 seconds.
Well, I think this week it's going to be huge. Like I think Alex Austin and being able to go in and just truly play your 2 outside guys man to man, because I think Gonzo's going to lock up either Harrison or Michael Wilson, whoever you decide.
Yeah.
Like I think you have to go Harrison because I think he's just way better than Michael Wilson. But like you're going to have to see Mapu this week, and you're going to have to see Duggar, and you're going to have to see like I don't think Duggar can go one-on-one with Trey McBride. So you're going to see like
which sucks because that's kind of what we wanted from him.
But exactly.
Sorry.
I think no. I think because it's such a valid point that like if we had a guy who could like just take away tight ends, like we saw like the teams who beat us during the dynasty had guys that could take away Gronk, and that was like that's big
Baltimore.
For this team.
Yeah,
exactly, dude. And like it's hard to be able to be like, okay, we don't want. I don't even know who the third receiver and like because even the second tight end in Arizona, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's solid. Like he's actually like weirdly like kind of a viable fantasy option because they throw him the ball like 3 or 4 times a game, and that's like if you can get that out of your tight end.
I'm a Trey McBride guy in fantasy this year, so I've definitely reaped the benefits for sure.
No, and he gets the highest targets a game. Yeah.
So they have listed their third receiver as Greg Dortch, and then they have Zay Jones and Zach Pascal and Xavier Weaver, kind of rounding out that room. In terms of tight end, we have Trey McBride, Tip Raymond, Elijah Higgins, Travis Vokolek. So Tip Raymond is decent.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tip is not bad. I don't remember his name, but I've watched him take enough targets from Marvin Harrison over the course of the season to know that he shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
And so it'll be
that
interesting.
That being said, Tip Raymond has 4 receptions for 29 yards, so maybe not Tip Raymond.
Who is it then, dude?
I don't know, because I do agree that like there is a second tight end that I remember watching vividly.
Yeah.
All right. It's Elijah Higgins. He has 17 receptions, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns, averages 8.5 yards a catch. Okay.
Exactly.
That's what research during the show can do for you. Awkward phone moving research.
Exactly. Yeah. Now we're still getting things figured out. We don't have a guy in the chair yet.
We don't have a guy in the chair yet. That's true, dude.
We need a guy in the chair. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see because we had all those issues during the when we were playing Miami 2 weeks ago, right? We were talking a lot about like them playing too much base defense. This is a team that you
Yeah.
can weirdly play base defense against, like
And why is that?
because those heavy sets and like they're gonna come out and they are committed to running the ball, and the Patriots cannot stop the run, so you're gonna have to play out a heavy personnel, which I hate doing. Like, I like being able to just say like, all right, run the ball, we're gonna keep everything in front of us, but I don't think you can do that. We've seen too many teams just gash us in the run game, and that it's one thing to see a quarterback go out and throw a beautiful ball, or receiver break somebody off on their route, or freaking Kyler Murray just gonna like extend the play and huck one downfield. Like that's like, all right, we can do something about that. When you just get punched in the freaking mouth, like every game has been this year, like this Patriots team is allowed, that's just like backbreaking. I cannot take that. So as a
You're right.
fan, yeah,
I mean, that's the thing that's nice about having Gonzo is like if we can kind of try for the most of the game to take MHJ off the board, and we devote a lot of our front seven resources towards stopping James Conner because that's kind of the X factor for him. Like obviously Trey McBride is going to be the biggest threat from a receiver standpoint, but if we can limit that all of their production to him, we do have like more physical like safeties, but really linebackers that I think we can cause some disruptions in the middle of the field, but again, I think we gotta, take away that X receiver and we really gotta devote a lot of energy towards because we can't be bled dry for 3 hours with James Conner runs. Like that is a
oh
way to
my god,
lose a game, and that's a way to lose a game in infuriating fashion. Like we gotta,
yeah,
I mean, again, shore up that front. Yeah, just completely.
no, I'm the other side of the ball. Like I'm kind of confident that we can put up like 20, 30 points, like not 30 points, but if we were to go out and put up
Yeah,
23 points,
we
I'll
haven't put
be
up 30 points,
yeah, I know. And if
but
we
I
put
think
up
we
30,
can.
I'll be over the moon. I
Yeah,
think
dude,
that
for
it's
sure.
possible. Like I really do think that like they don't really have anybody defensively who like fundamentally scares me. Like Buda Baker's a good player, but like what team doesn't have like one good player that you can't like if you can't beat that, like we must
Hmm.
get Travis Hunter. So
Yeah, especially when that player is a safety.
exactly.
It's like back in the day when the Chargers offense was like mediocre, but they had just Derwin James back
They
there, and
just
it's
had
like,
Derwin James.
and they're like, that's cool and all. We're still gonna like throw for 350 because you have no help in
Exactly.
the secondary, which we've seen happen to us this season, where it's like that's cool you have Gonzo, which again, you'd rather as like a first building block when your defense sucks, you'd probably rather have that lockdown corner because you can find that kind of athletic safety, uh, you know, later in the draft or in free agency, like
Yeah.
what have you, but it's the same thing where people can still exploit us, and we can see Kyler do that if we really don't, you know, I think pay attention to details, as you said, base defense, kind of loading the box up at times, just not getting beat through the run game. Because really, you want to make Kyler more one dimensional than he has to be. You want to take away the effectiveness of the run game over the course of 60 minutes. So, he's going to be forced to maybe scramble, throw off platform, do things that are designed for him to be unsuccessful. And
Yeah.
keeping a guy like that, like in structure, doesn't help him because he's just going to get more and more confident as the game goes on. And then, as you
Exactly.
said, like those athletic plays, like he breaks it for like a 25-yard run, like that's backbreaking if you have one of those happen in the fourth quarter. And if you're slowly wearing and tearing them down for, the 3 quarters beforehand, you see a little bit less of those as the game goes on. And that's what we've talked about with
Yeah.
Drake May, right? We're like, hey, we love some of these improvised, these scrambles. Like you get a 30-plus yard run, what have you. Like that's great. We're getting these in the first and second quarter. It'd be great if we could allow Drake to kind of pull that club out of his bag and like smartly
Exactly.
again taking slides late in the game, because then you add a whole nother dimension to your offense that in crunch time when the defense is tired, I think can really exploit teams that don't have top end talent or maybe aren't coached to the highest degree. So we're definitely there's some similarities there. We just got to make Kyler uncomfortable because he's not an above average quarterback when he's like out of structure.
No, that's the thing, dude. I think if you what was it, 3 weeks ago at this point we played the Colts and just like got killed by the run. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
like I almost want to say like force him into the run. Like obviously don't say like let him make mistakes, but like He's the type of guy, like like you said, when he's hot from the pocket, he can cut you up. Like he's a good passer. He's much better than Anthony Richardson. So like I think
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
if you can kind of force him to pull those balls in the middle of the field, like having to extend plays with his legs, like I think that'll be a good thing. So
I mean, it's weird that their team again. Like I was reading their team defense, they're 13th in scoring. So it's not like that's a little bit better than league average.
yeah,
And certain games can kind of inflate those numbers, but it's just interesting to see them have a defense that hasn't played horrendously, that has like does not have an easy schedule. With an offense that has, arguably right now in terms of performance, a top 5 running back in the league, a
yeah.
top like 3 tight end in the league, and one of the greatest receiving prospects we've ever seen. And it's like they still aren't, putting
So like clicking,
this is a team that does not put a full 60 minutes together very often.
never.
And there's generally a collapse, whether or not it be on the other side of halftime or in the fourth quarter, or even maybe after a strong start to the game, they just slowly taper off. There's very little like consistency with them. And if we allow them to get into a consistent rhythm, whether or not that's, getting the defense off the field quickly with a couple 3-and-outs, frustrating Drake, or, Kyler extending some plays early on, having a 12-yard rushes, just chipping away with some Trey McBride middle of the field tosses, like that will suck. We need to make this team uncomfortable. And I think we might have the horses to do it for a team like this. I just don't know if we will. Like I don't have a lot of faith in the Covington Mayo dynamic right now. I want to.
Right now.
And I'm not sure if you have any opinions on, what Covington can show in these next 4 weeks post bye, to keep his position, because obviously heading into the season, AVP was the hot button topic, but now we're looking at Covington and we're like, all right, what have you done for me lately? And what you've
Yeah,
done for me lately is, keep Drake May off the field for as long as possible,
yeah,
and force us to play from behind more than we should be. Or, again, the offense in the red zone hasn't exactly been fantastic. So I'm not putting all of our, scoring or situational woes on the defensive side of the ball, but that stuff really compounds. And for an organization that built its reputation on defensive stability and excellence over the course of 25 years, it's alarming when we're looking at going into the season. We thought we'd have a top 10 defense because we had
yeah.
the guys to do it last year. Obviously, freak things happen, like a Barmore injury. That's really crippling. Peppers being on the commissioner's exempt list. We kind of expected Judon to be gone, so we don't really have to talk about that. But Jawan
Sure.
Bentley out. Like, these are guys that haven't played at all during the course of the season. Barring Barmore, the last several weeks. But yeah, that really does take the heart out of a D. But considering we've re-signed a lot of guys, like whereas the offensive side of the ball has been rough, we've re-signed drafted guys or guys that we found in free agency that found a home with us. Like, we should have the leadership and the understanding of scheme being under guys like Mayo and Covington for several years, like to put forth a better effort and to be a better defense in total than I think than we've displayed so far, over the course of 10 or 13 games.
I just I don't think we're getting I don't think ever when you're playing bad it's a good idea to get more like dynamic or exotic or whatever you want to call it, but like it's pretty much just been like line up and go. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'd love to see some simulated pressure and some like really hot blitz packages where it's just like we're sending 6, figure out who, and if you can get the ball out, you got the ball out, but we're not going to let you beat us over the top, and we're going to admit, like, I'd love to see them get a little bit spinning the dial on the backside, like throwing some safeties down and really getting confusing, because I think that's to your advantage. Like, I think if you're going to let teams come out, and I don't think this team uses a lot of motion, but I think they use it effectively. So, like, if you can play a lot, I think you're going to see a lot of zone this weekend. I really think you can spin it off of that and really create some effective pressures rather than like just being like, we're sending 6 and we're just going to line up exactly there and we're going to go exactly there. Like, yeah, I need to see some spice a little bit, which I mean, this is like we said at the beginning, like this is 2 guys who've learned football through Madden and watching the dynasty. Like, throwing different looks is always a good thing if you're a defense and you know how to do
Yeah,
it. So like, I would love to do that.
I wonder if that lack of exotic coverages that you're talking about, like spinning the dial, things that kind of were hallmarks of the Belichick era, is it more of an indictment on the defensive coaching staff or on the horses we have right now? And an extension of Bill Belichick, the GM, over the last 5 years, that
Yeah.
we don't either have the confidence or the depth to, trust some of these guys. And again, taking into account like the rock in the middle of our defense has been out all season. And I do think Jawan Bentley like frees you up to do certain things
No, he
when
does.
you have a guy that, will meet a running back downfield and is going to levy a hit, is really, a force of stability when it comes to the run game in particular. And we've seen the run game take a massive hit this year. But I want to know, your opinion on, are we blaming Covington? Are we blaming GM Bill? Are we blaming the guys? Like who are you
I think
looking at as
it's.
saying, or is it a combination?
I was gonna say, I think it's hard to point fingers at any one person. I think something that you bring up a lot that makes a lot of sense for this is like not having McCourty back there, like not having the confidence that like no matter what, you're not going to get burned over the middle. Because if you can get burned deep over the middle of the field, you don't have anything guarded at that point, and like that's just run right down the middle of the field. Like it's as simple as it sounds, and just having the confidence in there to really be trusting that guy deep, and I think that's the biggest piece. I don't think Duggar or whoever you want to say is out there does it that well. I don't think like it. One thing that I noticed watching this game, and like you talked about it earlier with or Jonathan Jones, like he looks like a different player in that game 2 years ago because he was running with whoever it is, like a fast player, like he was.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 years from now, like it's. I guess the worst rated corner in the league. So it's interesting. We're in
I
a
mean, that'll
we're in a
happen
different
when you're
spot.
north of 30 too,
Yeah.
like it's, I have a lot of love for Jonathan Jones. He might have to, be put out to pasture in terms of, Patriots personnel this offseason. I mean, I'd love to have him stick around and be a mentor to some of these guys, but I don't know, where we're going to go. But
Yeah.
you brought up someone that I wanted to take some time here. This is our show, so we can do whatever the hell we want. I want to talk about how underrated a narrative Devin McCourty's absence has been from the New England
Yeah.
Patriots. This is a guy that for 12 years, from 2010 to 2022, right, 13 years, I guess, was only a Pro Bowler twice. And
Okay, man.
3-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time second team All Pro. So, I mean, he gets a little more love, from the actual journalists and the people that are deciding All Pro, but 2-time Pro Bowler for someone, and one of those years was, his standout rookie season. But this is a guy that provided so much stability over the top of the Patriots defense and consistently was the leader,
Yeah.
along with like the Hightowers and guys like that on teams that, were top 10, top 5, top 3 defenses in the NFL. When, we weren't paying J.J. Watt or we didn't want to pay Chandler Jones, we'd make sacrifices, we bring guys in, we lose them. And from that stability, from having guys like McCourty and Harmon, all the way up to the front, like we need that so bad. We need the quarterback of the defense, deep in the secondary. Like we need someone with eyes, someone that not only, is blessed with certain, anticipatory skills, but has a complete understanding of what the guy to his left and right are going to do. And that's
And
what we
that's
hear.
huge.
And we hear like McCourty and Harmon talk about that now, and you're like, damn, like I really took that for granted.
Yeah.
Because the Patriots weren't a team that's getting beat over the top very often. And they
Never a
certainly
coverage bust. Nothing.
never like the coverage bust that we see, the last few years. It's just been eye opening, especially when
Yeah.
we were like a quarterback's worst nightmare, and now we're kind of a quarterback's wet dream. So it's unfortunate for sure, and I
Yeah.
think we all need to take a step back and be like, damn, Devin McCourty was really really a gem, and respect our legends. That's important. Just like with Slater on special teams and, like Tom at quarter, like really take a minute to appreciate what we had the past, 25 years, because these are guys that made so much of a difference on the team. And when you play like a McCourty your entire career with one team, like that's so rare.
So rare,
And
dude.
I have a lot of love for him, and Jason too. Why not? Super Bowl
Yeah, why
champion
not?
as well. Why not?
You got anything else, or we're getting close to an hour?
Uh,
Anything else you want to talk about?
Maybe a couple points. Javon Baker, DNP all week, out with a
Sure.
concussion. Interesting. Jaquelin Roy, foot injury. He's listed as out. We had a couple illnesses on the injury report that seem to be
Yeah,
running through the team, but I don't think anyone's going to be sacrificed in terms of gameplay on Sunday for that reason.
I hope so.
Another thing to keep track of: Cole Strange activated at KJ
Yeah,
Osborne's expense. We lost KJ. Our big summer signing at receiver is now
I know.
cut. He's been cut. And Cole Strange, obviously coming off of an injury, is limited participant all week in practice. I am very interested to see, based on the reps that we've kind of heard rumored about in practices. Again, things are very hush hush, but apparently maybe Strange is getting some looks at center. I know we talked about the Strange to center pipeline. Some things to keep note of. He's
No,
made
yeah.
27 starts in the NFL, and all of which were at left guard.
And I don't
Which
really think many of them were that good. So
no, but the thing, like this is my issue is that I mean, given our erratic left guard play this year, I wouldn't mind having a go and seeing.
yeah,
And with the stability we have with Ben Brown, handing the ball off to Drake, it is tough to just throw a wrench in there this late in the season when there's maybe chemistry being built.
yeah. I hope they don't.
That being said, maybe Strange, we don't have the confidence in him, whether or not it's in his lateral
True.
mobility to take on some of these guys, because obviously as a guard, you're still going to see some of those edge rushers. Maybe we're saying he's not, athletic enough. I'm not entirely sure, what's going into that. I think he could be a good center, and I think under different circumstances, it would be fine to have him as a David Andrews successor. I
Sure.
just would prefer it not be,
Week
hypothetically
15.
a first round draft pick
I know.
that ends up
That's a good
converting to
point.
center. Think about what team in their right mind would have to take a first round draft pick and the guy ends up being your long term center. That's so embarrassing. I
I
mean,
could be
I still
wrong, but
don't.
Creed
I
Humphrey, I
still.
think, was a first round pick.
Well, all right. So that's one, and that's obviously it's a pretty outstanding center in the NFL. One of the only when there's a name brand guy, and again it's because the Chiefs are on TV every 5 seconds. But when you have a name
Huh.
brand guy at center,
Second round pick.
he's actually Even then, I don't
Yeah,
even like taking guards in the first round.
I
So,
know.
let alone a guard that, we have all the jokes and we're going to talk about because we've done some draft episodes that aren't published, but we talk about, the Kelvin Banks and the Will Campbells. These are, for those who don't know, the big tackles of this year's incoming draft class. They're both being subjected to, look at his wingspan, look at the way he moves, look at his hips. Is he really a guard?
Yeah,
Like, the tackle to guard pipeline coming in the NFL is a very funny talking point, and all these unwritten rules about wingspan and all that crap. Are we gonna have to have similar conversations now with the guards that should be centers when it comes to Patriots players? We're gonna be like, well, I mean, he actually can't block for shit, and he's played 27 starts at left guard, to no avail. So let's throw him at center. Maybe his wingspan is better, or maybe he's better at putting a ball between his legs. I don't know, but
but even then, it's mentally, especially in this offense, it's a way harder position. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting. I don't think he's a dumb guy by any means. I've never really heard
no,
him talk, but I don't
no.
think he's like a Jaylen Brown type.
Well, it's
So
harder, especially when you've had someone like David Andrews, holding down the
exactly.
fort for as long as he has, and
Yeah.
given Ben Brown's lack of experience, I bet you Drake has taken it maybe to his benefit. I think more of a leadership position in terms of the offense that way, because obviously
I
the
hope you're
center in
right.
the Patriots offense, particularly in the Mac Jones era, had a lot of power, and
Yeah,
because it's David Andrews, that's okay. We don't have David Andrews right now, and I don't even know if we're going to get him back next year.
I'd be shocked. All right.
Yeah.
Well, anything else? Final tidbits? I mean,
I
I'm kind of
mean,
good.
uh, yeah, I kind of covered all I needed to. We kind of discussed the sillies as well as the seriouses. I mean, John Parker Romo signed to the practice squad, three-name
Sure.
kicker. I believe
New
that
kicker.
he was replacing Will Reichard for a couple weeks there in Minnesota while he was on injured reserve, or when he was injured. I don't remember. So there's
Can he
something.
kick the ball 70 yards?
I don't know. Can Joey slide?
No.
Yeah. Joey Sly's got quite the leg, but man, does he miss at the worst. It's like Behringer, It's
Yeah,
there's so much power and talent there, and it's then why are we getting these just missed 29-yarder or whatever? It's
I
just I
know.
have no
I would
words for some of the
sacrifice
special
power,
teams inconsistency for sure.
especially with full Hogan. But all right, that's enough.
That's expats, baby. It's a full hour.
That's expats. Yeah, goddamn. That was a good episode. Not gonna lie. I think that was easily our best. So you guys are
Got it
lucky you
rolling for
missed
sure.
some of the bad ones.
Yeah, no, and they were bad ones.
And there were bad ones.
And there will be bad ones again.
And they will be worse. All right. Well, stay tuned for Mondays, Tuesdays, something episode about us recapping this game in Arizona. This has been ExPats.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah. Hey, Mrs. Downey.
Yeah, she can be the only one listening.
No, Mr. Jim Cobra will be listening too.
Hell
I don't know if
yeah.
they'll get this far, but.
Yeah, I know it will. It's an hour.
All right. Well, I'll see you